Side note, getting back to the whole EBITDA thing.
Yeah.
Right? Me sounding smart.
Can you name them?
Can I go through it again? Let's see. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization.
Look at that.
Nice. Look at that. But I mean, at least I admitted the fact that I was an idiot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim, you did. There was a couple of months ago, I had a gentleman share with me the fact that he was buying some more assets for his business, and he kind of let me in, and he was using all these, terms and terminology that he assumed I knew, like what pro forma meant. I'm going, yeah, man, good, congrats. Instead of me going, hey, what does that mean? You don't want to seem like an idiot, but at the same time, you just kind of play it off like you know what he's talking about. And I'm like, I don't know what that was. I need to look that up later.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your problem? You have business problems? We have business solutions.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. Life is a fight.
Yeah.
In business, every day is a fight.
Yeah, it's just life.
So, hey, what's your problem?
Yes, as always, thank you, John David Wells, the big voice guy, for the show. You can check him out on Facebook. He's at the Wells Report. If you want to watch his show, he live streams every day, I say. Probably on 10 or 11 Central Standard Time. It's the Wells Report on Facebook. Check him out. This is the What's Your Problem podcast, where we talk to Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals about the one thing, because it's always something that keeps you awake or alert or gives you agita. Something like that. Really is always something. And once you realize it's always something, things typically get better. Maybe not. For me, it did. This is a video and audio podcast. Check us out at whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Our big, hairy, audacious goal for the year is 10,000 average downloads on an annualized basis. So if one episode gets 10,000 downloads, hey, we're going to start shooting for 100,000. Let's make this sucker big. If you like it, share it. If you really like it, tell somebody about it. If you really, really like it, tell somebody they need to be a part of it. Or something like that. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com, and it's your show.co that produces this podcast. And today, Mr. Chris Hammond, coming from where? Where do you live?
Franklin, Tennessee.
Franklin, Tennessee. So you've come all the way down here.
Yep.
To be on this, podcast, if you want to call it that.
My first ever podcast.
First ever? Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Dare I say you're a podcast person? Chris works with Alliant Capital Advisors. They are a business brokerage firm that helps business owners. Even if you're getting into business before starting it up, the best thing you can have is somewhat of an exit strategy, because I think a lot of people get into business and they create jobs that they own.
That's right.
Isn't that the thing that you come across a lot?
Correct.
Yeah. Sorry to tell you that, but it's not much else we can do.
Yeah.
But of course, what we always start out with is the Dad Joke Challenge, which is brought to you by Mr. Ed Fox and Trade Bank of Nashville. All the details are in the description. Have you tried out Trade Bank, Chris? We're all big fans of Mr. Ed Fox. We're in the same B&I together. And have you looked into it at all for what you do?
I have not. I need to.
Yeah.
I need to.
It'd be an interesting application for what you do.
Yeah.
So if you're a business that has languishing products or maybe services, things are slow, try trade. At least you can keep things moving, get energy moving in the right direction. Make sure that you're out there working, spreading the word, and you use trade dollars with another network of businesses instead of real dollars. Because sometimes barter is smarter. Or as Mr. Ed Fox says, bada is smarta. He's also a huge aficionado of dad jokes, so he's our dad joke guy who comes up with them and everything, and we play them back. And the whole idea of the challenge is not really a challenge. We just kind of listen to the dad jokes. You can laugh, you can groan, you can comment. Just don't be silent. Otherwise, I'll have to hit the crickets. So, agreed?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Joke number 1.
Went to the Air and Space Museum last weekend. It was disappointing. There was nothing to see there.
Have you been to the Air and Space Museum in Washington at all?
Yeah.
There's a lot to see there.
Yeah.
I have no idea what he's talking about. I guess because it's all air and space.
Air and space, yeah. I thought there was going to be something else.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was good. All right.
What do you call a bee that can't make up its mind? A maybe.
There you go. I'm going to call it a June bee or anything like that. Maybe.
Maybe.
Joke number 3. Here we go.
He said 3 is usually the.
Did you know that England doesn't have a kidney bank, but it does have a Liverpool?
Oh my gosh. They typically get better as they go.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Well, let's hope so.
Number 4.
Why do mermaids wear seashells? Because B shells are too small and D shells are too big.
Not in my opinion. Anything more than a handful is what they say. Oh my goodness.
Here we go.
We're getting blue. Here we go. Last joke, I promise.
Now this one surprised me. Did you know there's no official training for a garbage collector? They just pick it up as they go.
Yeah, I kind of saw that one.
Yeah.
There you go. You got your jokes loaded for the weekend.
Yes.
When the show comes out, even though we put it out on a Tuesday, make sure you remember them so you can tell all your friends and be the life of the party with at least 5 dad jokes that you heard right here.
There's never an end to his dad jokes.
There really isn't.
Yeah.
He will have one at the ready. I guarantee you. You ever meet Ed in person, he will have one fired up on deck.
Yeah.
And then, a whole line of them going down his arm.
I tried to explain the round to it. Have you gotten the round to it tokens?
I did. Yeah. Get around to it.
Yeah. I must have missed something in the explanation because it didn't come across as...
You get around to it. That's the whole notion.
I get it.
Yeah, I know. That's puns. So punny. So there you go, the Dad Joke Challenge with Mr. Ed Fox and Trade Bank. All the details are in the description of the podcast. If you're interested, make sure you hit him up, tradebankofnashville.com. So here we go on with Mr. Chris with Alliant Capital Advisors. I'm familiar with your business. You and I just talked about this before we started going live. Mutual friend of ours and I guess a colleague of yours, John Howard. Been a big part of the Alliant family for many, many, many years. That is, you're talking about buying and selling businesses, mostly selling, I would imagine. Correct. That's a tough grind, man. You got to really load up that pipeline to start seeing some ducats. Right?
Yeah, it can take years. I've only been doing it a little while, but they've explained to me that they'll get a call from a letter that they've sent 5-10 years ago, and business owner gets the letter, he or she puts it in a file and says, when the time comes, I'm going to pull this letter back out. And sure enough, so you never really know, when you're going to be at the right place, right time. The demographics are in our favor with the baby boomers retiring. And so there should be an onslaught and healthy supply.
Yeah.
But getting to them and getting the message, that's the important part. And like anything, that's not, like you just said, that's not why they went in business. That's not their business, so it's not their specialty. So there's a lot of fear of the unknown and kind of who are the right people to talk to and who can I trust. And I can fully understand why. I mean, you've built this business and now you're gonna take the advice of someone else on what to do with it. It's a lot. What kind of qualifications do you need to do what you do? That's interesting. You don't need any. It's a unlicensed industry. So you could be a broker tomorrow if you want. You do have to have your real estate license if the real estate is attached to the business. If the business owns the real estate and they want to sell that as part of the deal, you do technically need a real estate license in order to make a commission on that portion of it. But the other, in the state of Tennessee, some states are different, but in the state of Tennessee, you do not need a license.
Really?
Yeah. So there's kind of a mix of folks who do it. A lot of folks are former business owners who have maybe gone through the process and now want to kind of take what they've learned and use that to advise other business owners as they go through it. Mm-hmm. And then, it's kind of anybody and everybody. One of the guys, my colleagues, was in retail for a long time. Worked in department stores, so managed all that. I've heard of a number of people who went to go buy a business, and through that process, kind of saw what the broker was doing and realized that's what I want to be doing. And
right.
So it's across the board.
What made you want to get into it? Is that what you saw?
Yeah, I mean. For me, I saw Most of my career has been in the larger deals, kind of middle market deals, multi-million-dollar transactions, typically with private equity funds that would involve a lot of capital providers, would involve a lot of attorneys, a lot of accountants, and it was a big conglomerate of people involved. And so the training I got through the decades of doing that, sort of set me up to where I can do this. But it was always kind of missing that people piece of it because it was just a transaction. It was all numbers on a page and dollars getting transferred from account to account. It wasn't down on the ground at kind of roots level. And so this is an opportunity to use that training, but impact real people, real American business owners that have built businesses, and now this is their chance to monetize it. So that's what appeals to me about it.
Well, it's basically you're dealing with small business, the backbone of our economy, pretty much.
Yep.
You get a lot of people that are coming to the table that have started a business. Maybe it's a family business. Maybe it's a multi-generational. And you've been doing this how long?
3 months.
3 months?
Yeah.
First foray into it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What were you doing prior to that?
So I was in private equity and leverage finance, they call it. So all kind of M&A related to private equity deals.
Okay.
And I was always a generalist. I did some healthcare, but not enough to be a quote unquote healthcare guy.
But in like mergers and acquisitions,
Yes.
how long were you doing that?
That's been since 98.
So you've got some experience with, looking at numbers and statements and all the stuff you need to look at and analyze and know what you're looking at.
Correct.
You almost have to be like a CFO-minded person.
Correct.
To do what you do, right?
Correct.
It just can't be anybody. I can't just go in there and be a business broker. I wouldn't know what I'm doing. I mean, I can look at the basics of a balance sheet and income statement, things of that nature.
Yeah. I don't want
Is that the case?
No, I don't. I don't want to jump. I don't want to jump the gun, but really, that is what's my problem.
We could jump the gun. That's fine.
Okay.
Let's do. We're here all night. Why not? We'll fire it off.
Yeah. Sorry.
11 minutes in. That's good. That's fine.
Endurance, not my specialty. Yeah. That's my problem. Is how do you differentiate yourself in an industry that anybody and everybody can do, and might do it well, might not do it well, but there's you hate to say it, but there's somewhat of a stereotype for business broker.
What is it? I've never heard of it.
Well, and I hate to say words, but you were a car salesman, right?
I was.
Yeah, like.
Does that have a stigma to it or something?
Doesn't used car salesman like a line?
Used car salesman.
Used car salesman. Yeah. I feel like used car salesmen make fun of business brokers. Like,
really?
No, I don't know. But you're running that's kind of my problem is how do you stand out as a, qualified, experienced M&A professional in an industry that's unlicensed and has somewhat of a stereotype of just give me your listing. I'm going to list it on Biz Buy Sell and, sell it to the next buyer, and I'll just help facilitate the transaction, not really add any value, not really. But
yeah, at the same time, I would imagine if I came to you wanting to sell a business, you're going to help me put a valuation on it, establish how much times EBITDA that
Correct.
We're going to put on it.
Correct.
Is that an easy formula to, I've seen the documents that go into the valuation of a business. It's not easy. There's a lot involved. It can take a good week of paperwork just to come up with the first iterations of a number.
Yeah. So,
right?
and I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, but let's say real estate broker. There could be a real estate broker that knocks on your door and says, hey, do you want to sell your house? And you go, I'll take $5 million for it. And,
right.
And he or she will go, okay, now I have a listing for $5 million, not knowing what is your house worth. Have they done the comps? Have they run any numbers on? So the analogy would, have they run any numbers on your business? Have they figured out what they think it's really going to sell for, what it's really worth? Or are they just taking your number and listing it? I have a feeling that happens, that where And that's what I like about Alliant is we won't do that. We're kind of built on honesty and integrity. And if you want to sell your business for $5 million and we've run our numbers and our analysis and we think it's worth 2.5, we're not going to list it for 5 and hope we somehow get lucky.
Because you have to justify that to the buyer.
Correct.
Then you got to assume the buyer's going to do their homework.
Correct. And then, and you're building a reputation. So once buyers kind of know you as a group that just lists anything, they're going to enter any kind of new listing with that in the back of their mind versus these guys do their homework. This is, they vetted, because what, you mentioned EBITDA, even in the smaller deals, we call it more seller's discretionary income or seller's discretionary earnings. Sorry. So it's basically EBITDA, but you also add back, pretty much every business owner runs some personal expenses through their business, including their salary and whatever kind of they pay themselves, as well as a lot of times travel or insurance for the family or a car, whatever it may be. We got to add those back because a buyer should not have those expenses. And so that should be cash flow that the company will then produce for the new buyer. So, you got to make sure that those add backs are legit and verified and, documented, not just pulled out of thin air.
Well, I'll just be honest and integrous with you. I have no idea really what EBITDA is. I just know that it's a fancy term. Earnings before income.
Interest.
Yep.
Taxes.
Depreciation and amortization. Yes, I knew it was something like that. It was an acronym.
Yeah.
But
it sounds good. You sounded like you
sounded like I knew what I was doing, right? Yeah. But I mean, I know that's like, isn't that just revenue? I mean, that's just gross revenue in a way, or
it's profit plus you're adding back those non-cash, like depreciation and amortization are non-cash expenses.
Okay.
So
because everything else, I mean, you want to look at the revenue of a business, the gross profit, all the expenses, all the overhead, all the things that go into it, salaries, things of that nature. Those are all variables you can relatively control once you take control of the business.
Right.
The revenue is what is most turnkey at that point.
Yeah.
Depending on what they do.
Yeah. You hope the revenue is not going anywhere, right? I mean, you're buying a business hoping that if anything, you can grow it. So the other saying we have is a buyer will buy your business based on the potential of that business, but he or she will pay you what it's doing now.
Right.
And so you bring up revenue. Revenue's good, but what gets lost is how much money do you make off that revenue?
Bottom line.
Yeah.
And the items that are in the middle are the variables. Those are the things you can, hey, well, you're doing it this way. I know I can adjust that line item to a certain extent and reduce it by X.
Yeah.
And I can do that across, 15 line items and then really make the bottom line even better.
Yeah.
That's what the person coming in saying, but I know that you don't see that. So I'm going to play the chess game of let's lower that multiplier on EBITDA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. It's 100%.
Interest.
It's 100% multiple base. So
depreciation.
Interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. Yeah. Because like interest, you had to borrow money, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to have to borrow money. So I'm not going to factor in what interest you're paying. And the taxes you're paying are different than the taxes I'm going to be paying. So I'll take your numbers and then put them on top of what I think it's going to cost me.
Right.
Because some expenses, like say rent, it's kind of fixed until the life of that lease. So that number, a new buyer can't really change.
Right.
But labor, if they have better hiring practices, they have better training, they might make more profit per labor dollar spent.
Yeah.
Or, if they're a bigger company, a lot of times it's a strategic acquisition. So they're already in the business. So they know they can buy that inventory or those supplies at a better price than this company is, but they're not going to pay you for that.
Right.
But they're going to buy the company because
it's like a chess game. They know they're looking at your numbers saying, I know I could change this, but I know that he doesn't see that.
Right.
And I'm going to try and lower that multiplier so I get a better deal.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, the the professional buyers, the private equity funds, the family offices, the folks that do this for a living, they're not going to buy a bad business, but they will buy a business that they think is poorly run.
Yeah.
Because
they could change that.
Yeah. Those are the diamonds in the rough. That's what they're looking for.
And then you get the like restaurants where it depends on the talent that is making the product.
Yep.
Especially like, for example, a pizza restaurant up in Nashville that was very popular. That recently, they didn't close down. They just kind of transitioned into a different business. I'll just say it. It was Joey's House of Pizza. They were up on Elm Hill Pike. They were in Brentwood for a number of years. And they went into the catering business, but mainly the event space business. They've got a place out in Murfreesboro. Forgive me, guys. They're friends of mine. Mm-hmm. I forgot the name of it. But, everything depended on Joey.
Yeah.
He was the guy. I mean, that was the reason why they only served lunches Monday through Friday. I don't even think they open on weekends because I want to be in control of the pizza. It depends on me.
Yeah. That's a perfect segue. Even in the few months I've been in it, that's one of the biggest hurdles is a business owner will come in and, they're ready to retire and they would like to sell their business. But you sit there and listen and you realize
he's the business.
They are the business.
Yeah.
And all the customer relationships, all the expertise, I'm like, if somebody's already in the business, they might have an interest in buying your customer list and buying. But
it still isn't you because then you got to work through the notion of getting the customers warmed and warmed up to the new owner.
Yeah. So that's a tough. Kind of goes back to what you're talking about. Is it a job or is it a business? And there's a split there.
If you have to worry about your business when you go away on vacation, and I don't mean like you're never ever going to worry about it, but you can leave and the processes and the procedures are in place to make sure that business can run.
Correct.
That is what you should strive for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Restaurants are tough because it depends on talent.
Yep. And then the other kind of headwind right now is the debt markets, right? The interest rates are double digits. Banks and, lending institutions are pretty careful right now, rightfully so, I guess. So that has a big impact on, purchase prices because you're going to, more than likely, you're going to borrow money. So that's going to eat into your cash flow that you have going forward. So it's tough. It's always a tough time, I guess, but right now it seems a little tougher.
It's funny. Side note, getting back to the whole EBITDA thing.
Yeah.
Right. Me sounding smart.
Can you name them?
Can I go through it again? Let's see. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization.
Look at that.
Nice.
Look at that.
But I mean, at least I admitted the fact that I was an idiot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim, you did. There was a couple of months ago, I had a gentleman share with me the fact that he was buying some more assets for his business, and he kind of let me in, and he was using all these, terms and terminology that he assumed I knew, like what pro forma meant. I'm going, yeah, man, good, congrats. Instead of me going, hey, what does that mean? You don't want to seem like an idiot, but at the same time, you just kind of play it off like you know what he's talking about. And I'm like, I don't know what that was. I need to look that up later.
Yeah.
That
brings back a lot of memories when I was in private equity. I was in sub debt. It was like mezzanine debt, it's called. So it's like the best analogy would be a second mortgage on your house because it's unsecured debt. So it's more expensive, but it's still debt. But we also get some equity in the business. So when I would be at a cocktail party or something like that, just like you were talking about pro forma, somebody would say, what do you do? And you start talking and you just see their eyes.
Well, that's okay. Let's get to that then. So you're in a networking event. Let's say someone, hey, Chris, so what do you do, man?
Yeah. So I advise business owners who are thinking about or executing on an exit. And so what I'd like to build to is where I can add value, not just sell your business for you, but as you're planning an exit 3-5 years from now, I can help you from a tax standpoint, more importantly, from a buyer standpoint. What are buyers going to value? How can we maximize what you're going to get when you do sell? Because the old slogan, you want to sell when you want to sell, not when you have to sell. Right. And so I advise business owners on that part of exiting so that they can monetize their equity that they've built over all these years, as opposed to just having to close the doors or not get the most that they could when that day comes. And so if they're ready to do it now, then I'm here to help them through that process, but ideally kind of helping them plan ahead so that when that time comes, it's the best result it could be.
So that was about a minute and a half.
Too much? Too long? Too little?
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, I think you could I help business owners buy and sell their business, and I give them good or really good or sometimes really bad news.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. What do you mean? What do you mean the bad news? Well, I mean, sometimes they build a business for years and they realize that it's only worth what they're worth. If they're involved in it, it's worth a lot. If you take them out, it's not worth much. Yeah. I have to deliver that bad news a lot. That's I think the way to say it.
Yeah.
That really sums it up. You know, what problem do you solve? You always start there.
Yeah, because the bad news, because you think about the multiple of EBITDA, if it's 2 times or 3 times, you're basically saying you could either keep working for 2 or 3 more years or sell it today. Mm-hmm. So if you could work 4, 5, 6 more years, that's going to be more than what you could sell it for today.
Typically, I take bad news and I turn it into good by letting them know that it's probably not worth as much right now, but I can put an action plan together to get it worth something in about 5 years. Man. If they can endure, right?
I just bring you along.
It's not a bad way to describe it, right?
No, you're right. No, you're 100% right. Yeah.
So you're a business broker. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I buy and sell businesses with integrity.
Right.
I'm just going to shoot straight with you. I'm going to tell you what it's worth. If you don't like it, I understand. But that's what it's worth. You know, you need an outside person looking at the label of your bottle that you're inside of.
Yeah.
It's just another form of what I talk about all the time in the podcast is seeing the label on the outside of the bottle, man.
Okay.
It's tough.
Yeah. And, the other value add is to make sure that the buyers are legit, that the buyers have the capital to get it done, that they're real, they're not just tire kickers. So that's part of the value as well, is not, everybody isn't just showing up at your door.
Right.
We're vetting who's
you have to.
Yeah.
Because if it's not worth anything, but at least it's like a realtor saying, well, I can help you buy a house right now. No, you can't. You don't know what their credit situation is.
Right.
You don't know what they're going to get approved for. You don't know what kind of debt ratios they have. So I can at least, if the planets align, I can help you buy a house right now. In the least, I can help you prepare to buy a house in the next 6 to 12 months.
Right. Get with a lender, get pre-approved for a certain amount.
Right.
Correct.
And then start getting your house in order and your ducks in a row to get you where you need to be. And we typically see within 6 to 12 months, we can get you there. Yeah. Can you wait that long?
Right.
If anybody else tells you anything differently, beware.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because the one thing you can lead with is honesty. Yeah. Because it's in your best interest to make a transaction. That's how you make your money.
Correct.
So look, it's in my best interest to sell you and sell your business and do what I need to do. That's how I get my money quicker. But if we don't have something here, then I hope you realize that I am truly on your side.
Right.
So maybe to answer your question before, how do I differentiate myself? It's just shooting from the hip, man. It's being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm going to give you bad news.
Right.
If you start with candor wins a lot.
Yeah.
You remember back in the 80s, the battle of the rental car companies? And this is a case study that was brought forth in the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. Sometimes the law of candor really does help because Hertz and Avis were the Pepsi and Coke of the day in terms of rental cars.
Yep.
So they would, I think Avis always knew Hertz had the lock on the number 1 position. They were the leader in the category. So some of the rules of marketing is that if you can't be the number 1 in a category or number 2, then create a category in which you can be number 1 or 2. In this case, Avis was just going to say, well, you know what? We'll let them have the number 1 spot. We're okay with being Pepsi. We'll actually play that up. And if you remember back in the day, they admitted a negative to elicit a positive from their prospective audience. Marketing is a battle of the mind, right? Mm-hmm. And when they came out and said, hey, we may not be number 1, but we try harder. Mm. You remember that from early 80s?
Yeah.
That was a thing.
Yeah.
And that won them a lot of endearment.
Yeah.
from prospects. I'll give you a shot. Okay.
Yeah.
You're admitting a negative.
Right.
You're not admitting that you're perfect, that you're just, on high.
Right.
So, I mean, going about that saying, look, I'm a business broker that may be the bearer of bad news for you. But the good news is I typically can come up with a plan.
Yeah.
To get you where you want to be.
Yeah.
If you can endure that much more time.
Yeah, because I've also seen that we have to deliver bad news to the buyers, because we get plenty of folks coming in and say, similar to the home potential home buyer, I want to buy a business. I've been working in corporate America. I'm tired of the rat race. I want to be a business owner. I want to buy a company.
Right.
And we kind of have to deliver them that you're not going to find the perfect business at this scale.
Right.
These smaller businesses are going to have something wrong. There's going to be a customer concentration. There's going to be, a salesperson that is a large chunk of the revenue. There's just going to be problems with it. If you're down here looking for recurring revenue, customer diversity, perfect, polished, just $200,000 coming to your mailbox every year, I mean, it's just not going to happen. So,
right.
So if you got to get your mind right if you really are a buyer in this market.
A lot of people assume that storage is that kind of a business.
Yeah.
Right. I guess that's the closest you're going to get.
Yeah.
Or storage businesses.
Yeah. But even that, I mean, somebody could open one right next door, right? I mean,
start undercutting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That totally can happen.
Right.
I mean, those are all these, the environmental factors you have to take into consideration.
Yeah.
Is that one of the things you hear a lot, that they can just turnkey it and then just, have, quote, passive income? Is there a such thing as passive income in your opinion?
No, I mean, not at this level. The multi-million-dollar deals I used to work on, you had a management team and you managed them and
But that's still not truly passive.
Not truly passive.
Yeah,
no.
You're still involved.
No, passive, that's buying stock, right? I mean, buying an index fund.
And hoping for the best. I mean, it still takes...
You have zero control over
right.
anything that happens.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the... not the hedge fund, but the investment fund. What is it? Michael Burry from The Big Short.
Oh, yeah.
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 The Vanguard, not a Vanguard fund. It was an investment fund.
I can't remember.
Yeah. Not a hedge fund. I don't know.
Yeah.
Investment fund or something. That's what he ran.
Okay. Yeah.
And none of the investors had any control. He had complete autonomous control.
Right.
But, and they hoped for the best, even when he decided to short the housing market.
Yeah.
And they all got really mad.
I think passive income is a
misnomer.
Unicorn. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But it's being sold out there today like freaking gangbusters.
Yeah.
I want multifamily because I just want passive income. No. Okay.
Yeah.
The buck still stops with you, man, if you're the owner.
Yeah, I think we all kind of fear that someone else has a secret, that they're somehow getting buckets of passive income, but really nobody is.
Right. And then getting the guys, so basically setting those expectations for the buyer.
Yeah.
And how do they typically, do they still, well, okay, I get that. I still buy in. Does that typically happen?
I don't know what the percentage that actually pull the trigger are, but it takes a mindset of you're going to have to roll up your sleeves and there's risk involved, and ultimately you're betting on yourself, and some people are able to do that and some people are not, and either maybe at their stage or just in personality. And so the folks that are able to bet on themselves pull the trigger, and it happens. It's not common. I would say it's more common that folks tend to pass and kind of aren't able to cross the finish line.
Do you do personality assessments on these things too?
No. Other than just gut and kind of getting in the room. We love to get in the room and, get face to face with everyone involved, and really getting, even then once we've gotten further down the path, get buyer and seller together in a room and make sure there's trust and rapport between those two, because that's a big part of the transaction as well. Because once that trust is there, if both sides are motivated, that's the recipe for a success.
Yeah.
But when there's some distrust, or when you mentioned getting in business just to exit. If when a seller is just motivated by money, that's a kind of a red flag, because that's probably going to be an issue. Getting to a successful close. You want more. I've put all my time, assets, stress in this business, and I'm ready to diversify that and spend time with my kids, retire, or we have one guy who is starting to charter boats, and he's like, I did it once and I realized that's what I want to do. So, as a seller, that's what you love to hear, because the buyer's, going to be comfortable that he or she is getting out of the business, and it's not that it's a bad business or they're just looking to cash out. It's that they legit want to do something else. And the other great scenarios where somebody's like, look, I've taken it as far as I can. In order for it to get to the next level is going to require more investment, more risk, more time. And it's sort of a lifestyle now I'm good with. So, the good ones or the mature ones kind of see that and realize
that's a legitimate reason.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great one. Yeah.
And all you can run with that and, sell it. So to speak.
For sure.
What kind of books do you kind of champion in this scenario? I would imagine one comes to mind.
Written books?
Yeah.
Actually, Ninja Selling, even though I think it's geared more towards real estate,
right,
is a great one. I haven't delved into a ton of one. Which one are you thinking of?
The E-Myth.
The E-Myth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that talks about the 3 personality types of a business owner.
Okay.
You have let's say
I need to check that out.
The person, the whole notion is built around a storyline of a bakery. And person ascends to the point where she's like the key person in a bakery, and she realizes, well, hey, why am I doing it for somebody else? I could do this for myself. So puts her money where her mouth is. She branches off, starts her own bakery, and then realizes that she's created a job for herself that she owns, and she's got to be there every day. She's got to hire the people. She's got to do all the things. And she finally finds the one person who looks like her, and she can kind of, at least run the business, work on your business, not in it. I love it when people say that, and they think it's so easy. A lot of business coaches, well, you got to work on your business. Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Appreciate it.
And then who's going to work?
Yeah. It's, you got to know when to say no to things. Well, okay, when you're starting a business, unless you got a pile of cash that's funding everything, giving you oxygen.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough to just, I'm going to have the luxury of saying no. No, you got to fund the business.
Yeah.
If you're pulling it up by your bootstraps. So she ends up finding somebody who's similar to her, pours into her, shapes the person then starts running the business. Oh, I can finally, scale back and look at the overarching progress of the business as a whole. Well, all of a sudden that person jumps. Well, now I'm back, now I got 2 different roles I got to handle. I got to work on the business, now back in then. And then they talk about how an entrepreneur will work on the processes and the procedures so you can just plug people in and out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically the 3 personality types are the person that leaves a business thinking they can do better. Even electricians are perfect. Well, I can do this on my own. Okay. You're a technician.
Yeah.
That's what they call them.
Right.
An entrepreneur knows that, okay, I got to build the processes and the procedures that I can just plug people into and find the personality types that fit the policy or the process and the procedure. So there's the entrepreneur, the technician, and the manager. Managers typically just kind of work for people.
Yeah.
So they dream about being self-employed.
Yeah, you always hear the story of a person who got into something because that's what they love to do, and they built it and it got bigger, and then next thing you know, they were managing the people that were doing the thing that they loved doing, and now they're doing stuff they don't love to do. My
father always said that, if you do for a living what you love to do, you're going to not love to do it anymore. Yeah. And he talked about that with fishing. And I said, well, wouldn't it be great if you were a professional fisherman? He says, then I wouldn't enjoy it. And I said, okay, I understand that aspect of it.
Yeah.
You got to leave things as a hobby. What I do for a living with podcasting and voiceover, I actually do, and I do enjoy it. It's fun.
Yeah.
But you have to do it.
Right.
You got clients that are your bosses essentially, and you got to make it happen.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, could it be worse? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool.
I play a fair amount of golf, and every golf instruction I've ever gone to, the golf instructor never gets to play any golf. Like, I guarantee you got into golf because you love golf, and now
and teaching it
right
is a grind.
Right.
It's awful.
Yeah. So you asked about what I read. There is one broker that I've known for a long time here in town, Jim Cumbie, and Jim does a great job of putting out blogs, vlogs. He's actually written a book. So he has content out there that I'll go watch.
Yeah.
There's the association, the IBBA, International Business Brokers Association. They have training videos on their website. I've watched a fair amount. But I'll have to check out E-Myth, and then I'll have to think about some other books
Yeah.
To read.
Now, the one thing, have you thought about social media as a way to differentiate and introduce people to what you do?
Yeah, so Ashley and I have been working on that, and I think for now we're going to focus on the LinkedIn. As
Ashley Bright, people, right?
correct.
Ashley Bright, we've had her on the show. Dynamic.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
She was my first call when I decided I was going to do this.
Nice.
Yeah, I think just thinking about the other platforms we didn't think made a ton of sense yet. We feel like LinkedIn, there's a lot there that I haven't tapped into. A couple of the guys that I started with at Alliant are deep into LinkedIn with Sales Navigator and using that as a real tool. I have not. I've always had a LinkedIn profile. I think I have like 1,500 connections. Who knows who any of them are, but
Right.
so I think we're gonna, and she's kind of focused on it as well for her business. So we're sort of going down parallel paths with it. But that's from a digital, I guess, social media. That's kind of where we're focused. I still I did a hard letter campaign, printed out 200. I did a sort of a geographic search and by size, and then you can get to the owner or the president and literally send him a hard letter signed with my business card. And so that, I guess we've sort of come full circle where mail means more than an email. Email is where your junk goes, and mail is where legit mail goes. But
Isn't that funny?
yeah.
Yeah. Whereas 20 years ago, email, if you got something in your email, look at this, I want to open it. You've got mail. Oh, cool. Screw the mailbox.
Yeah,
I want to see what I'm emailing.
Dear space Jim,
Yeah.
James, comma, wait, they're not really.
LinkedIn is famous for the pitch via DM.
Yeah.
That's like a 3-page DM. Well, hey, I just wanted to know, I just got one not too long ago. It might have been on LinkedIn. I mean, I get them every week, but one especially stood out to me hey, would you want to be a part of my group? We're going to be a mastermind, and we're going to, I could use more people with an expertise like yours, and yada, yada, yada. And never specifies the expertise that I have. So it's generic.
Yeah.
So I'll come back. It sounds interesting. What would you like me to speak on? Or on what would you like me to speak? Grammatically correct. And, typically that's when they got to do their homework. And, well, I see that you're a voiceover podcaster and blah, blah, blah. And it's okay. You just look me up.
Yeah.
You would have done that to begin with.
Because you replied, he looked you up, but otherwise they wouldn't have. Yeah, I don't know if business owners per se are on LinkedIn. But clearly CPAs, financial planners, accountants, attorneys, all those are great. Anybody that business owner has in their inner circle when, they need advice, say, I'm thinking about, because that's the other thing is confidentiality is huge. You can't just go around letting people know that you might be selling the company soon.
Right.
Employees, your best employees would be leaving, your best customers would be leaving. So
got to be stealthy about it.
You do. Most of the times you do. And so who do they trust to kind of ask for that kind of pretty important advice? So I think LinkedIn would be good for getting the word out to referral sources.
I will say that it sounds like there's a podcast idea in there, because you have a lot of podcast podcastable
Yeah.
things that you can talk about, especially on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
because you do have a tremendous expertise in your background with M&A.
Yeah. Mergers and acquisitions.
But I think of like MMA, mixed martial arts.
I do not have any MMA.
No MMA experience.
No.
You've got battle scars. You've got experience in the business financial space.
Right.
That's nothing to balk at.
Yeah.
You know, things that a business owner, you could just talk about little things like, top 10 things a business owner needs to be cognizant about, those types of topics, little lists, things of that. And they could be blogs, they could be spoken word, they could be video. For Alliant to get in front of other business owners and professionals doing a podcast like this, where they just bring business owners on, and you never know. Right. That business owner may not want to sell for 20 years, but he may know somebody. Hey, I was just on a podcast. It was a lot of fun. These guys buy and sell businesses all day long. You should talk to them. Right. If you're thinking about, maybe encouraging the referral pipeline, it's not a bad idea, because there's a whole multitude of stuff you can be talking about.
Yeah. And it's really just, spreading the word, ultimately I'm building a brand.
You are.
Right.
Your personal brand.
Yeah.
And that's the other conundrum, is that a lot of businesses, a lot of guys out there that are becoming personal brands on Instagram, LinkedIn, you see a lot of the thing to do, especially if you're a, dare I say, a woman. Where's my phone? I have no idea where my phone is. Never mind. Women entrepreneurs and influencers seem, in my opinion, to get a lot of attention. And their strategy is taking selfies.
Yeah.
And they expand upon in their post, like a blog, a topic.
Yeah.
And it'll just be them, looking, maybe having their water in their hand or their coffee, and they got their legs crossed and they're like, posing. I kid you not.
Really?
And huge engagement. Hundreds of likes. Over the course of an 8-hour day, they'll get hundreds of comments. It's crazy.
Wow.
Heather Monahan, and she comes to mind. I don't know if you ever heard of her, but she's out of South Miami. And I would, if I ever had her on the podcast, I would ask her, be like, so is that the strategy? It's
working.
You're good looking. It seems to work. At the end of the day, comes down to how you look, which is unfortunate for me. But a lot of what I was saying before is a lot of personal brands. Dave Ramsey was a personal brand.
Right.
And he attached his name, and the value of his business was attached to his name.
Right.
So he was almost like golden handcuffed to his business.
Yeah.
Even though he had the processes and the procedures in place, it all revolved around his name. Now it's the Ramsey Corporation.
Yeah.
Still his name, but he's still involved, but not as much as he used to be.
Yeah.
He's got a team in place, but it took, 30 years
right.
to get there. Then before that, it was the Lampo Group, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a separately named entity, which I don't get. That actually made more sense to separate it that way.
Yeah.
But, he went with Ramsey Corporation at this point.
Yeah, it should, right? it takes a while to build a brand as somewhat of an industry expert or that topic. That's what I tell people is where I want to get to, is if you're at that cocktail party and it comes up and my name comes to your mind, that's where I want to get to. It's like, oh, well then you should call Chris. He'll shoot you straight.
Right.
And that's the ultimate goal.
What really rubs you raw about what you do? Like, you get someone who comes to your business and they want to either buy or sell a business, and you're like, you're just a flipping moron. Does that happen a lot?
I won't say a lot. No. What rubs me? That's good.
That's a good question, right?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think I don't know if this is just at work, is if someone doesn't know what they're talking about, but they refuse to listen.
Right.
That's when they're just 100% convinced they're right. And I don't know if they know that they don't know, or they do know that they don't know, and they're just, but I can't deal with that when somebody is 100%, adamant about something, and they don't know what they're talking about, but they won't. I guess maybe just not listening in general.
Yeah.
Like, the lack of listening to just stop talking.
The lack of what? Sorry.
Yes.
Had to.
Yes. Yes. I think my other general pet peeve is a lack of sense of humor. I can't imagine going through life I feel like you and I are similar that way. Like, either my next laugh is either coming from me or coming from you, but it's coming.
Well, I mean, I do find a lot of humor in things. My mother used to kind of not cajole me about it, but not everything in life is a joke, Jimmy. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's the way I see it.
I mean, really?
I mean, I've managed to live to almost 50, and it's kind of how I live my life. Of course I take some things seriously when they need to be serious, but, the one thing I will say about myself is I can also be very assertive. And whenever I get a gut feeling about something, I just did it recently with a situation where one of our contemporaries in B&I had a question for me, and I said, look, you just need to do this. I said, I just know it in my heart of hearts, and my DNA is screaming that you just need to do this because I've seen it done like this before, and it works. Here's the reality. And I hit him with the realities too. I said, I'm not sure if you've got the charisma or the personality to deliver that. And that's something you have to dig into. That's the only thing I can really, kind of ascertain from you is the assertiveness. And it takes for a social media profile to be built.
Yeah.
You got to be bold. You got to just say, look, if you're thinking about going in the business and don't have a plan for an exit, even though it may seem like you're out for money, you got to have some modicum of an idea of where you want to be in 20, 30 years. Okay. By the time you turn 60 or 70 years old, what do you want to do? And of course, yes, I understand that's going to change. You're 30, 40 years old. You have no idea who you're going to become.
Yeah.
But right now, if you had to meet that man and say, okay, what do you like to do? Let's see how we can put that plan in place, because you're not going to want to keep on doing this. I'm always a big proponent of, okay, you still have to have purpose every day. So if you still want to lose, you're going to turn the business over to the kids. Are they going to want it? There's so many variables.
Right.
And if they don't want it, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
If the business revolves around you, you're basically the bold thing to say was that you're going to fail. It's going to be worth nothing because it's around your neck. Yeah. So if that's the way you're going into a business, we need to talk. Yeah. That's the kind of boldness, right?
I like it.
And when it delivered with charisma, that's what made Gary V. He was just unabashedly, but he didn't start putting anything out there until he had battle scars, until he knew what he felt comfortable knowing what he was talking about. Yeah. He had the success. What we see are too much of in the personal branding business space, the influencer space, people advising other people who haven't done anything. Yeah. Yeah. Or have built their business coaching other people. Right. And they call that, well, that's my business expertise in battle scars. Yeah. No, I think battle scars before you get into the coaching space is I've been in business for 15 years. I've worried about how to pay the bills and how to make payroll. Yeah. Yeah. That's huge. Right. Right. So, but you don't have that. You've got the scars. You've got the license to talk. Yeah. Use it. Yeah. I love it. You've seen it. You've been in and around it. Yeah. And you might as well put it to use, man. Yeah. So the other thing I will tell you is that Mr. John Howard. Yeah. I think maybe it was I mentioned it to him or another colleague of ours. He said, what would be really cool is if you printed off your listings every week of businesses for sale and brought them to B&I. And he started doing that. Of listings that I guess were held with Alliant, or maybe they were his own listings. I'm not sure how it works. Yeah. But he would print them out, maybe 3 or 4 of them, and just put them on the tables. And he'd be like, hey, I just left it with a really cool business. Here's this one in the middle. It's a business that's this kind of thing. That's, 3 times EBITDA, and you got all these different things. And you never know how many, I know somebody who would be a perfect fit for that. Let me connect you. Right. Yeah. Something to think about.
Assertive is going to be my new word. Yeah. Consistency, for some reason, was a word that kept coming up in conversations with people. It is. And so consistency, and now I think assertive is going to be we're going to transition here.
You see how I got very assertive just now.
I did,
right?
yeah, and it worked. I was in.
Because I just know what you need to do.
Yeah.
Consistency, absolutely. Podcasts help you that.
Yeah.
Because once you get in the rhythm of doing a podcast, whether it's you just sitting in front of a camera, in front of your laptop, and you're putting it on Zoom, you could talk to anybody. I mean, the best thing for you and the cheapest way to go about it, just do Zoom podcast. The fact of the matter is you can invite anybody on. If you're interested in a certain kind of industry and you want to learn more about it because you got a customer who's got that similar, tell me more about this industry. I know what I heard from them. Let's just share information here. There's so many ways you can go with it.
Yeah.
And then of course you take all the short form content out of the content out of the episode.
Right.
And there are your links, your LinkedIn posts.
Yeah.
You could school a lot of people. I have a feeling.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, there you go. How do people get a hold and follow you, man?
So, alliantbrokers.com. And then I am Chris at alliantbroker.com. For some reason, our email is alliantbroker and the website is alliantbrokers.
And you're on LinkedIn as well?
Yeah, Christopher Hammond.
Christopher Hammond.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to look you up here. See what you've been doing. Christopher.
See what I'm all about there.
Sometimes I just do this. This is the,
How do I look? Younger?
Chris Hammond, talent at AEG Presents. That's not you.
A little younger? HAMMOND.
Yeah.
Christopher.
Vice President.
Yes.
That's you.
Yeah.
Okay. Follow.
Do you see me?
2005. I'm pretty sure this is you. We do this live. Is that you? Does that look familiar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one headshot. I need to get with Dana and get a different headshot, I think, updated.
No, it looks good.
Okay.
Looks good. You got there, Chief Financial Officer Donnelly, Timmons and Associates.
Yeah.
So, dude, I'm looking at your experience. You got a lot of...
I look good on paper.
You look fantastic on paper, but it goes back a long way.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm 50.
You're not a spring chicken.
No.
Let's see. So we have... Not bad. You just got to start posting.
Yeah, I got to be assertive. I told you.
And I tell you that Ashley would tell you got to post and you got to comment and engage with other people on LinkedIn. That'll get you exposed.
Got it.
So become the expert in business financial appraisals.
That's right.
And how to do that kind of thing. So there you go. All the information for Chris to follow him. We'll put his LinkedIn profile in there. Any Facebook, no Instagram at the moment? Or
No.
It'd be interesting to see how you can take this to Instagram and TikTok.
It'd be interesting.
It would be interesting. Guys, I haven't found a business like this that's this turnkey that once you get into it, all you need is $500,000. It is going to be nothing but passive income.
EBITDA.
20 times EBITDA in freaking 2 years.
Passive
income up the yin yang. Right? You sold?
Easy peasy. Let's do it.
Well, right on. Check us out as well. whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Again, I'll reiterate that we want 10,000 average downloads per episode on an annualized basis. You know how to do it. Share, subscribe, like, rate, review. Give us I love the reviews. I actually read them the other day on Apple Podcasts. I almost got a tear to my eye. It's fun to see, not only people that they feel like they just need to do it for you, but people you don't know that just give you a shout out. And I will always encourage 5-star reviews. But if you hate me and you want to, just be a troll, that's fine too. Go ahead and knock yourself out. Nothing's all that perfect. So whatsyourproblempodcast.com and it'syourshow.co if you're looking to get a podcast produced like my friend Chris Hammond here. And definitely check him out. Chris, thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to talk with you.
Yeah.